The woman wore a trench coat and surgical mask, her hands in her pockets. Am I pretty? Yeah, I suppose, you replied. She removed the mask to reveal her slit mouth. Do you still think holy hell? Lady, we need to get you to a doctor ASAP. You didn't give her time to argue. You just grabbed her wrist with one of your hands and with the other pulled out your phone. There were no bars and your screen flickered oddly. You curse and complain about tech failing just when you need it. You must be in incredible pain, I can't even imagine, you rambled on. And to think you're worried about your looks. You poor thing, who hurt you so? The important thing is to get you looked after. Health is important. And on, you expressed your worry and outrage for whoever did her such a horrific injury. All the while, you were so focused on getting her the help she needed that you missed the bewildered look on her face. She trailed silently behind you, not resisting. And by God, you deserve better. I'm sure the doctors can fix you right up. Sure, there'll be scars, but I've heard there's a lot of treatments for that too. But they're a sign you survived a horrible ordeal. You felt her hand slip from your grasp. You whirled around to make sure she hadn't fainted or anything. You stood alone on an empty street. Confused and even more concerned, you fished out your phone again, and this time there were 3 bars and nothing abnormal about the display. You dialed the emergency services and rattled the whole strange encounter, emphasizing the woman's gruesome wounds. To your shock, the dispatcher merely sighed. I suppose you haven't heard the story. And then you hear a short version of this urban legend about a disfigured woman asking whether she is pretty and how the wrong answer will kill you. You stand there, mouth agape. You can Google for more info. I'm sorry to say, but you were probably a victim of a mean prank. I wish you a good evening. The tone echoed in your ears as you lowered the phone. If it was a prank, you seemed to have accidentally worked around it and foiled the plan. Still, something about the woman's wounds seemed off. Like they were too real to be a mere prank. You sighed and shook your head. What a bizarre evening, you thought as you made your way back home. When you walked through the front door of your apartment, you did not notice the dark figure in the living room. Once you turned the lights on, you shrieked in fright when you saw the woman's silhouette. She was sitting on your sofa, once again wearing the mask. The only sign that she had noticed you was her sidelong stare. She did not move. If this is a prank, it's gone way too far, you thought as you stepped slowly to the living room. The woman watched you but did not move. The dispatcher's telling of the tale did not say whether she attacked immediately after the victim came home or not. I heard your injuries are beyond medical aid at this point, you told her, voice quivering. She kept staring. You sighed and walked over the armchair, turned it and then sat down, facing her. The apartment was warm but you didn't take off your coat. Somehow you felt safer with it on. You looked at each other. You really didn't know what to say when anything you might say could spell your end. But eventually the woman saved you the trouble. Am I pretty? She asked. There was a difference in the tone of the question that you couldn't quite put your finger on. More vulnerability? You took a breath and leaned forward. Beauty is a complex thing. There's the whole beholder's eye, diamond in the rough and all that. Many things can be pretty even though at first glance they might not seem to be. Not to mention all the non-visual beauty. You talked on, and she listened. Inner beauty, cultural norms of it, imperfections, how familiarity affects your views, everything you can think of. She kept quiet. Eventually you ran out of steam and words. Your throat was dry and scratchy. You sat in silence for a long while, until she slowly raised her hands and pulled away the mask. You shuddered at the sight but did not turn away. Am I still pretty? She asked. The vulnerability was evident now. You really looked at her. I don't know. From what I've heard, you've done a lot of awful things. But I guess you could still become pretty again, regardless of your appearance. The silence stretched, gained gravity, pressured your mind. You did not say anything else. This was it. The woman had followed you home and had received honesty. You were scared as a mouse in front of a tiger but could not do anything else. It was all up to her now. You almost recoiled when she finally moved. She put the mask back on her face and rose. She looked at you for a moment before sailing out of his sight. There was no sound of the door opening and closing, but somehow you knew that one minute she was there, and the next she wasn't. You slumped in your chair and tore off your coat. All of a sudden you were feeling too hot.